Since so many of you are here already, we'll begin a couple minutes early, which means we can finish up a couple minutes early so you can go back to your studying or whatever. My name is Father Kevin Robb. I'm the Associate Vice President for Mission and Ministry. I'm the chair of the Smith Fellowship Selection Committee and the director of the program. And on off days, for some reason, I am the associate treasurer of the college. There's no rational way to reconcile those two positions because it's the sublime and the ridiculous. Even though some days what's sublime and what's ridiculous is open to dispute. You've come here this evening because you're interested in the Smith Fellowship program for next summer. The Smith Fellowship program was founded in 2008, and we sent our first fellows overseas. It was a small group, only 2, in 2009. So we've had 6 summers of Smith Fellows, and we now have actually 43 Smith Fellows over those 6 years. One of them is here with us this evening. Back here, Kate Jorgensen, a senior. She did a study fellowship in Dublin this past summer, working with the Dominican friars at St. Saviour's and living with the Cabra Dominican sisters. And she did research on a 17th century Dominican poet, on the great 19th century Jesuit poet, Gerard Manley Hopkins, and on a living poet in the Dominican order, Father Paul Murray. The other 10 fellowships this past summer were all service fellowships. We had 3 go to South America. Julia Guaret went to Chimbote, Peru, worked with the Michigan Dominican sisters in a maternity clinic that they run in Chimbote. We had Maggie Schmidt, who's in Florence now, junior semester abroad. She worked with the Dominican Sisters of Tucumán in Argentina in their various ministries. And then we had Kathleen McGreal, who went to Baños in Ecuador, working with the Dominican friars and the Dominican sisters in their ministries. We had 2 students go to work with the Dominican friars outside of Johannesburg, South Africa, Joseph Day and Jenna Donahue. Emily La Battaglia went to the Philippines, to an orphanage, couple-hour slow bus ride out of Manila, and she worked with the Dominican Sisters of St. Joseph in an orphanage that they run there. We actually, one of the first Smith Fellows back in 2009, also worked at that orphanage. We had 4 of our students go, as I call them, they went down under. They went to Australia, 2 of them spending 6 weeks there, Elizabeth Nako and Renee Altamari. And they worked with the Dominican Sisters of Eastern Australia in their ministries. And then 2 more, Alex Rawson and Carrie O'Donoghue, went to Sydney for a period of time and then went on to the Solomon Islands to work with Bishop Chris Cardone. He doesn't sound like a Solomon Islander. He isn't. He's from Long Island, a member of the class of 1980 here at Providence College. As a young Dominican friar in our province, he went off to be a missionary in the Solomon Islands and a few years later became a bishop. And so we've had several Smith Fellows, go to the Solomon Islands to work with him and the Dominican sisters there. Last week we had presentations by 8 of the summer 2014 Smith Fellows right here. Those 3 presentations are now viewable on providencecollege.edu. You would just go to Catholic and Dominican on the main page. Go down, you'll find the Smith Fellowship Program. It takes you to a landing page. You find the blogs of 38 or 39 of the 43 Smith Fellows, and you will also find presentations for 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. We will have one more Smith presentation on Saturday as part of St. Dominic weekend, and that also will be mounted up on that web page at some point next week. All I'm saying is, if you want to know what the Smith Fellows have done before, there's a mountain of information all available on that Smith Fellowship webpage. You can view these presentations. You can read the blogs of most of those who have had this experience. When this program first began, the idea was to provide the opportunity for Providence College students, either rising juniors or rising seniors. So, in other words, current sophomores and juniors, to apply to go to some Catholic and Dominican location around the world to work with Dominicans, either doing personal research or service. And most of the fellowships have been in terms of service. What we provide is an all-around package that costs the Smith Fellows nothing. We provide the airfare, we provide the room and board, we provide spending money, we provide travel insurance. In other words, it's a gift. And it's made possible by a group of donors, most of whom are members of the Board of Trustees or past members of the Board of Trustees, who have supported us throughout these years to make this possible. So it's, as I said, it's a gift, but you have to work to be able to receive that gift. I'm just not going to sit here and say, you, I'm going to write you a check for $5,500, and you can do with it as you want. It requires some research. It requires some thought. It requires, throughout the whole process, some reflection. I will be handing out, the guidelines and instructions for the Smith Fellowship Program for next summer, before we all depart. It's simple, but it requires a little work. From this point forward, we are in the phase known as the initial proposal. Any of you who choose to participate have between now and the Friday before Thanksgiving, so say 6 weeks or so, to formulate a proposal to go to some Catholic and Dominican venue to do personal research. This is not going somewhere, to get 2 credits for a 6-week summer course. It's basically your own research for your own personal enrichment to move together with what you learn at Providence College. Or it's the opportunity to go someplace in the world, and some of those places are very poor, to work with people who are assisting the poor in some ways. And again, if you look at the presentations that were made last week, you get a good idea as to what predecessors in the Smith Fellowship program have experienced. By that Friday before Thanksgiving, initial proposals are due. 3 to 5 pages, and actually 3 pages is better than 5. If you can get it into 3 pages or a little more, the members of the selection committee will say, this young woman, this young man, has really been able to capsulize the whole thing. And it's basically a statement. This is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. This is what it has to do with being part of a Catholic and Dominican family here at Providence College. This is what I would like to experience, and this is what I would like to bring back to share with my friends and other members of the Providence College community. This is what I want to learn about myself. This is what I want to learn about how I can be, a real Christian brother or sister to others. And so basically you have to put some thought into this. I'd like to go to Sydney, Australia, because I know that Father Rob will make it possible for me to go to the Great Barrier Reef as a side trip. Who wouldn't want to see the Great Barrier Reef? Oh, Father Rob's going to send me to South Africa. I know that a 4-day safari at a great game park, is part of the possibility here. Doesn't that sound great? Well, that's what we don't want to hear. That's icing. We want to deal, with the cake. So, however many people turn in initial proposals on that Friday before Thanksgiving, the Smith Fellowship Selection Committee, which I chair, and 2 members of the campus ministry staff will also be part of it. We will read all of those initial proposals, and we will make a judgment. Is this a good proposal? Is it doable? If someone writes up a proposal and say, I'm going to go to South Africa and I'm going to be the savior of the native peoples, well, that's delusional. You're not going to get a fellowship that way. So it has to be a doable kind of proposal. And so what will happen, shortly around the 7th of December, before examinations are over, we notify all of the applicants, and we will authorize the applicants who have presented a doable, very good proposal to proceed to the next step. As in all competitions, however, some people will be eliminated. The nice thing is, if you're only a sophomore, you're going to have another year of eligibility in the following year. So those who are authorized to proceed have a real work project for them, during the Christmas break, because they have to be in contact with the potential host wherever that is, in South America, in South Africa, the Philippines, Australia, the Solomon Islands, or whatever you'd like to dream up. And you have to work out a proposal, a final proposal for what would you do during the 6 weeks that you were there? What would make up your ministry, your time of service in this Catholic and Dominican location? How much money am I going to need from the program to do this? In the end, I make all the airline reservations anyway, but more often than not, I end up doing most of everybody's budget for them because I basically know what goes into the budget and what would be appropriate in terms of a room and board donation, wherever you might be going. I make the arrangements for the travel and supplemental health insurance. But I do make sure that, you all have the necessary funds, to make this approximately 6 to 7 week trip somewhere in the world. And some of those trips involve a 24-hour plane ride going out and 24 coming back, at least, from takeoff to final landing. The final applications are due the Friday after Martin Luther King Day, and because of the new academic calendar, you're actually back on campus 10 days before that rolls around. I'm always available for questions, and people like Sarah Atwood and Bob Funder in campus ministry, who both deal with service projects either locally or beyond. Bob Funder basically handles Habitat, the New Orleans immersion program, the Caribbean immersion programs. These people are very useful resources and quite generous resources in putting things together. But I'm pretty well contactable between now and the awarding of the fellowships, which takes place somewhere around the 10th of February. I'm only going to be away for 5 days, the middle of October, but otherwise I'm here and available. And when I'm away, you can email me, and I'll get back to you. My father's turning 90 on October the 18th, so his children are gathering to celebrate. We don't know if he's going to make it to 95. That's the basic layout of the whole thing. You're also free, and this is important. You can research other Dominican possibilities. You're not restricted to some place that somebody has gone before, although you're welcome, to apply, to go to that same place. In the packet that I'm going to be giving you, it's a description of where the 11 went this past summer, the contacts there. There's also an office with the Dominicans in Rome that deals with Dominican Volunteers International. And even though that's a year-long program, the folks in that office in Rome did assist 2 or 3 of our fellows this past summer in identifying new possibilities. I would say this past summer, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the fellows actually, counting Kate, who did a study sabbatical, that makes 5, who went to new locations. So they researched that. They opened up these possibilities, and we welcome that kind of creativity. Jenna Donahue joined us back there. Jenna was one of the two fellows who went to South Africa this past summer. And she added a twist to her fellowship that only one other person had done before. You know, she really researched. She went somewhere that someone had gone the year before. But she fundraised among her friends and among her parents' friends, and she raised over $6,000 and was able to take all sorts of athletic equipment to this St. Martin Development Center in Spring, South Africa. These are a lot of little kids who really don't have anything at all. And she took used soccer jerseys over. She had new soccer jerseys designed. She took other soccer equipment. She took some extra money. She bought a couple computers for the operation because their computers had long outlasted their usefulness. And in the end, she and Joe Day had money left to buy paint, to paint the facility, the exterior of the facility, with the help of all these kids. You really need to see, their presentation from last Monday night to get a feeling about what it was like for Joseph and Jenna to be part of this community for 6 weeks. And you really need to see the smile on these kids' faces, with the gift. I'm not talking about the soccer equipment, but the gift of Joe Day and Jenna Donahue going and sharing themselves for those 6 weeks. So there are all sorts of possibilities. And I encourage you, if you look at everything and say, oh, that's all very nice, I can do better than that. I'm going to find a new place. Well, come and talk to me and let's see what we can do about finding a new place. So again, research, some creative thinking, sort of challenging yourself to go beyond your normal boundaries of functioning. There's all sorts of possibilities here. And I would say one more thing. Our Smith Fellows, to a person, over the 6 years that the program has been in existence, have come back and have said quite clearly, quite loudly, that their experience changed them for the better. And several, or more than several really, have said that it was the most important experience that they had had in the 20 years of their life so far on this earth. A lot of our Smith Fellows stay in touch, with their hosts around the world. And we're starting now to see people actually using their own money to go back for a visit and to spend a week or two immersing themselves again in what they had experienced and had found so worthwhile for them. So anyway, I've made my spiel. Do you have questions right now? I know that I made everything perfectly clear, but, do you have questions right now? Yes, we will work that out. It's good, to say, first of all, if you're, contacting someone that we've had dealings with before, you need to identify yourself saying, I really would be interested in doing this. Do you, have any suggestions for me? If you're, proposing to go somewhere new, it's very important to get in there and, to try to explain the Smith Fellowship program. Language can be a problem. What languages do you speak? English, English, English. Okay, well, there's a good part of the world that speaks English. If you speak Spanish fairly, the South American possibilities, are very good. Jenna and Joe went to South Africa. Well, English isn't necessarily the first language for many of these people, but there's a basic understanding of it. You were able to communicate pretty well, weren't you? No. The little kids just want a warm smile, and they're gonna cuddle and smile back. Emily La Battaglia went to the Philippines. She didn't know Tagalog, which is the native language of the Philippines, but she functioned pretty well. Those going down under, you're basically going to find in Australia, people speak English. And in the Solomon Islands, English is a second language for most of the population. But language can be an issue according to where you're going in the world. We like to think that the whole world speaks English, but there's still a lot of the world that doesn't. Much more of the world does now than it did 50 years ago, because it has become very much the principal international language. Okay, is that helpful? Other questions? You know everything now. You've gathered it all. What I'm going to ask is, first of all, take one who's interested. Just pass them around. These are the instruction guidelines. They're also available from that web page. It basically says in more detail what I have just told you. So you have that. Again, there's such a wealth of information on the Smith Fellows for the past 6 years that just, pick a location, watch the video. In some instances, you can watch 3 or 4 videos because people have been going there for several years. And read the blogs. Again, the kids who've gone around the world have been very good according to how the internet connections have been. Sometimes they're not very good. But they've written very good blogs with pictures, and they've talked about their experience. There's really, I know you have a lot to do, the demands of your classwork, etc., but maybe even on the Columbus Day holiday weekend, you could spend a couple hours, on that web page and look at some of the videos, read some of the blogs, and get a good idea about what you would like to do. But I can't impress upon you too much that this is really your project. You need to do the research, whether it's for an existing Smith Fellow venue or whether it's a new one. And again, the fellows this past year were very creative in opening up new possibilities. I'm always contactable. I have, my office is literally, if you go into the Harkins Rotunda and turn left to go down the north corridor. Mine's the first office on the right. And I have a flexible schedule. So normally if you call and even want to see me, I can get you in within a day to have a chat. I'm not the busiest person on this campus, so it's nice to have that flexibility. On the tables back there is a sign-up list. If you're seriously interested in embarking on this journey, I'd ask you to just put your name, your class year, your email address. All I need is the first part of it, because I know the rest of it is at friars.providence.edu. But this way I will, by early next week, I will have a complete list of those who are interested, and I'll be communicating with all of you via that. So if you'd just sign in, I'd be very grateful. I thank you for coming this evening. It's a great crowd. I wish you well in this adventure, and that's what it is. It's an adventure, and it's one that you create yourselves. It's not something that anyone is going to create for you. They will contribute, yes, and I'll contribute as much as I can following, my 6 years of experience with the program. And you will find that the hosts around the world also will make a great contribution. But the major emphasis is going to be on you. What are you going to do to make this an experience of a lifetime, or at least a lifetime up to now? Because Providence College certainly hope you will have a lot of great experiences in your lifetime. And they might be experiences of service, built upon the Smith Fellowship program, or if you're able to initiate a personal study program, you might discover something that you haven't discovered yet in the classroom. So anyway, thank you for coming. Please sign in. There's refreshments back there. If you want to take an energy bar or a drink with you, please do. And thank you.